we have on my man, Mr. Rich Christensen. And today we're talking about his new book, Blindsided, a journey of identity, faith, and healing. And we talk about his riveting story of overcoming adversity. We're going to be diving into this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast. Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Carrie Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model / actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality. Yee-yee. All right, my man, Mr. Rich Christensen, welcome back to the Happy Hustle Podcast. I am so excited to rock the mic with you.
Well, I'm so excited to be here, and I am a happy hustle guy, the 10 alignment. So thrilled to support you in what you're doing there, Carrie, and expect great things.
Thank you so much, Rich. Yeah, Rich was holding up, for those of you just listening to the audio, a picture of, or a copy of my new book, the Happy Hustle version 2.0. And yeah, thank you for the support. But we're not talking about my book today. We're talking about your new book, which is Blindsided, a journey of identity, faith, and healing. And it's really your story, Rich. And it is a marvelous story at that, because you are a globally recognized thought leader, educator, mentor, parallel entrepreneur, and humanitarian. But more so that you are a happy hustler who is really spreading love, light, and flow to the world. And your story is remarkable, and I'm excited to dive into it. Before we get into all that good stuff, Rich, I know I asked you last time. I'm curious what you say this time. What's something interesting about yourself that not too many people know?
Okay, here's a fun one for you. My wife and I were climbing on Everest when we had a young family. And 2001, 2 weeks after 911. And we encountered this amazing little Sherpa girl, spoke 5 languages, was angry as cuss. And we brought back and we raised a beautiful little Buddhist Dalai Lama Sherpa girl as our own daughter. She now calls us mom and dad. And we have a rich connection to the Sherpa community. Actually, 2 other boys, Tashi and Tenzing, came over that also call us mom and dad. So wow. I am not only, I don't know what I am, but I've got Sherpa blood in me too. Bet you didn't expect that one.
No, gosh. I mean, I knew a little bit about that, but not the depth. And man, you literally changed the lives of so many people, but not to mention this beautiful daughter of yours in the Sherpa community that, I mean, who knows what that trajectory would look like otherwise.
And they changed ours, quite frankly.
Right.
We had a book signing up in Salt Lake last night, and Tenzing was there with his new little wife. He's got a PhD and rocking the world, you know? And so just the richness and the depth and the beauty that comes in when we cross cultures and are not afraid to, squeeze in the tight of our boundary. I think that's one of my main messages right now is we just can't have all this extremism. We got to open the box and get richness and have a little bit of depth and taking time to, understand different cultures, people, individuals' perspectives, and just get along a little better. Not to quote Rodney King, but can't we just get along?
Yeah. Amen. I mean, that's the truth. Just while we're here, let's stay here for a beat. I mean, we got the election coming up, at the time of this recording. And getting along a little better seems great in theory. How do you put it into practice, Rich?
Well, and I don't want to go too political either, but I'm going to, last night I was interviewed by First Lady Abby Cox, so in our state, Spencer Cox is one of my dear friends, and I have to tell you, real genuine, real beautiful, good man. Yeah, he's made a few mistakes. Put yourself in that position, but you're not going to, and he's kind of in this moderate space, and it's a very dangerous place to be. So his big campaign, so I'm going to quote him, was disagree better. We've got to take time to quote now Stephen Covey, my mentor, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And all of this all this commotion, it's manipulation, brother. It's freaking manipulation. It's media trying to extract dollars out of you and invite basically this fervor. And the issue, and it's part of the reason I came out with this legato content that I think that, you've had me on a time or two.
Yeah.
But the core issue is lack of stability of community.
Yeah.
It's better to be with someone and fighting something, not feel alone, that is just be all alone. And a lot of this is boiled down to is the very disintegration of our family units and our community. And so we just have to, there's only one thing we can do is start rebuilding that. Another group I've been, Shriver, I think he founded the Special Olympics, and he's got this special project called the Dignity Index, where they're measuring the candidates of how much dignity they're using. Tragically, kind of both candidates are epically failing. But we've got to start treating each other with dignity. And I think just using this, when you got the crazy uncle or the insane niece, just simply saying, help me understand that. And again, that's seeking first to understand. It's okay to disagree. It's beautiful to disagree, but we can't attack the human element and the dignity of the soul. So for me, it all comes down to dignity and rebuilding community. And again, much of the reason why I came out with the Legato family framework is to get a structure back where we can start stabilizing our families and our communities again.
Just to shout out the Legato family structure. If you have not dug into that content, I cannot emphasize it enough. If you have a family and you want to create the best possible family life and be intentional with your time with your kids and have just love and abundance in every regard and not spoil your kids with wealth or some of the things that you might have achieved. Specifically, I'm talking to entrepreneurs out there. It's by far the best piece of content I've ever found. Rich, shout out to you. You know, I'm not just tooting your horn. I really believe it. And it is, I was at Ben Greenfield's house with all our guys. I know he's a mentee of yours and a dear friend, and you actually connected us.
I did.
And I saw all his, his logo, his family crest, his family,
he rocked it, didn't he? Oh my gosh.
He crushed it. We're still putting together we haven't finished completely. And I got to say, every time I talk to you, I'm embarrassed that we haven't finished our crest and all the stuff. But we've done a fair amount and it has been transformative. So if you guys haven't, check it out. I know that's, again, you have so much wisdom, Rich. We could go in so many different directions, but I want to stay on the topic of Blindsided.
No, and I'm grateful for, you're bringing that up because I think it really does play into this content. You've heard me talk about cycle of flow, cycle of force, and us entrepreneurs are the most functional, unfunctional people in the world. We end up covering that, and no success in the workplace can compensate for failure in the home. Just can't. And so we've got to take care of this family component, and maybe the best way to take care of that is this content we're talking about today. And my full disclosure of the, if I can swear, a shit show that I went through. I guess I can say that without getting censored. But I had to face some pretty big dragons, my friend.
Yeah, you really did. Let's first unpack Blindsided. Like, give people a just inclination of why did you write the book? It's very personal. And I know when you go that deep and that raw and that personal, it takes courage. So tell us why you wrote it first and foremost.
Three reasons. The first is who lives, who dies, who tells your story. And this story is so salacious. Already there's made for TV movies that they're trying to make out of it. And I had to tell the story with integrity and accuracy to protect my ancestors, all three lines of my DNA actually, and to get the story right and proper so it didn't turn into one of these crazy free-for-all Mormon nutso shows that tend to occur. And so that was the first. The second is it was so important that my children understood this epic love story, a love story so significant, I don't think it can ever be recreated. And then also have integrity so that my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren can understand that, hey, I can overcome some of the really challenging, hard things in my life. And this is a model of how grandpa and great-grandpa and great-great-grandpa dealt with this. And there's not any more significant challenge of faith and identity than I've heard than this one. And so seeing me come through the other side with integrity. And then the third is actually all of you listening, is we've all got our own dragons.
Yeah.
We've all got our own demons that we've got to face. And when we hide them away and tuck them in a closet or medicate them or cover them up, they just get bigger. And so if my journey and meandering path and what I share is in some way beneficial and able to be modeled a little bit, that's going to be a huge win to me.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, amazing purpose behind the passion of writing this book, and you can feel it. It's really raw. For those people who haven't read it or even heard of it yet, give us the synopsis of the story. I know it's a bold task, but that way we can start kind of grandiose and then dive in more granular. Give us the kind of some of the high points.
Okay, I will. I'll maybe hit 3 or 4 or 5 of it. The first is, I think many people do know me nationally, is this: I got all my stuff together, and the reality is who's got enough brain damage to create 51 businesses? There's some daddy issues there, That's a lot of pain. I've never heard of anyone even coming close to that number.
Yeah.
And so my childhood was idyllic. It was amazing. I grew up as the oldest son of John and Laurel Christiansen, which was my entire identity. My father, at the age of 4 years old, was living on a homestead in a little remote area, no running water, no electricity. In the middle of the Great Depression, my grandparents had to make the decision: do we let this little blind? They discovered he had retinoblastoma on his eyeballs, which means cancer would go up his optic nerve and kill him. So they had to make the decision: do we let this little boy see to the age of 8? Or do we take a 1 in 30, 1 in 40 chance to remove his eyes and then bring him into the world blind? They did that, and indeed, my father lived. He turned out to have an eidetic memory, one of the, not even a close second. Kerry, I know many of the famous, the most intelligent people in the world, not even a close second. And so he could hear case law or a number and recite it verbatim 30 years. That was the home I grew up. So my entire identity was framed around this amazing mother and father. At the age of 53, through a very, very kind of interesting, fun story, I'll let you pull that out of me later, it was discovered that indeed my father was not my father. He was not my biological father, which led to all these crazy questions. Mom, what were you doing? Were you getting some on the side or what? But Mom was so religious, we couldn't imagine that she died young of breast cancer. So through a series of exploration and trickery, we discovered indeed that none of my siblings, with the exception of my just younger brother, were my bio siblings. And indeed, it turns out I was one of the very, very early donor conceived children. And the remarkable part of this story was my father was the county attorney. Mm. It was illegal, so he would have had to put himself in jail. It was excommunicatable from the religion, completely taboo, and my biological father would have been responsible for my upbringing. So that was my life unfolding, my identity shattering when I was 53 years old. And then the journey back and the recovery and the discoveries that were made were just nothing short of just neck breaking. And also then cathartic to find myself back to a reformed, reframed identity of confidence. And quite frankly, never thought it could be so amazing. Hopefully that was quick enough.
Yeah, it was. That was amazing synopsis. I mean, so much to unpack there. Like, I just can't imagine how you felt, in the reveal of finding out these things throughout your journey. I mean, they're earth shattering. And, I want to relate this to the audience, specifically the happy hustlers out there who attach themselves to an identity, because I think identity crises take place oftentimes throughout our journey. And you had to go through this. What have you learned from going through this identity shift and then kind of birthing yourself into a new light?
I love it. You just jumped right kind of the conclusion of where it landed. And there were modalities that were dramatically helpful to me. I have to be honest. And I had to reframe. But I think a couple of things that I really learned is to become an and guy, not an or guy. Back to our starting conversation, it's like, am I a Republican or a Democrat? Am I a steak or sea? And it's like, I've become an and guy. It can be additive and we can gain in breadth and perspective. And so I think that that's one key thing that I'd say. And the other is just to have the courage to look at an eyeball, spit it at it, and just go directly to it. So oftentimes these really, really scary and identity crisis. I don't know. It's such a trite word. I don't know. It almost sounds like some weepy little high school kid or something, But the reality is we all face it. We always have to continually reframe who we are, what we stand for, and what we're willing to die on the mountain for.
Yeah.
And I had to completely disassemble that. And so I think that the thing I would tell your happy hustlers is don't let the dragon get you. Don't medicate it. And especially being the king of it, don't medicate it with your work. As entrepreneurs are the most functional, unfunctional people in the world. Yeah. And most of us medicate it by trying to prove identity external in the public scope. The greatest battles are won in the private scope. And it's the battle I'm most proud of is facing this, living and sitting in emotion. And then I got it, not setting a campfire and roasting marshmallows over it. But it's like, okay, there it is. Now, what am I going to do about it? The other piece is learning to embrace all parts of myself. I've actually named mine Johnny Passion. Everyone knows Richie's app, which is the bright, vibrant guy you're seeing here. But Johnny Passion, the kind of stewing, negative, sometimes a little bit victimish, hiding part of myself, and realizing that that's nothing more than a reflection of my vulnerable 5-year-old. So maybe, just maybe, the broken parts of ourselves have and should have as much voice as the zippy outward parts of ourselves.
Yeah. And I so love that you brought that up, that naming these different parts of ourselves. I do something similar in alter ego sense. And I know you've talked about this, and it's important to have these different dynamics of oneself. I don't want to say labeled, but at least identifiable, so you know which individual persona is needed in any given moment, right? Because with your kids, you're different than with your wife, than with your business, in a sense, right? There's shift. There's these different masks in a way. What do you recommend when it comes to these alter egos and properly identifying the different personas and how we can use them?
Not to do a shameless plug, but one of the fun things I did to this is I created this thing called the soul expression, or the soul expression map, where you can go in and answer these really fun questions. I actually built this for the Legato Family Framework because oftentimes we can buffer ourselves by saying, hey, Carrie, what's your spirit animal? What's your shadow mind? What's your color? What's that little icon mean? And what that can do is kind of give us a buffering to actually express who and what we really are. So if you go to my website, richchristensen.com, and there's a free tool on there that's just called Soul Expression Map. And it starts with a short little breath work and then just runs you through all these super, super fun little questions that can start manifesting these different aspects of ourselves. Here's the reality that I've seen is there's at least 4 actors in our life. That we've all got a 5-year-old. That's typically when the injuries occur. And the hurts. And then we got a teenager that can be a little angsty and rowdy, and oftentimes the one that brings fun and vibrancy. Then we got a young adult trying to smack everything down, bring it into attention. Then we got our adult managing the entire party. And most of the time, myself, definitely, my young adult was driving so hard, beating the holy hell out of the poor teenager and the little kid, that they just didn't get voice. And oftentimes that's where the injuries, the acts up, the mistakes, or if you start doing really stupid stuff. So what I've learned is, hey, little buddy, what's going on? I see that you're just kind of having a temper tantrum there. Let's go for a walk and tell me about it. And actually have a conversation with my 5-year-old. Now this seems crazy to you entrepreneurs, but you know what? Since I've been living, we've talked about cycle of flow and we
Mm-hmm.
get our individual stuff in balance, then that allows our private life, and it just blossoms our business life.
Yeah.
And really living congruently, when we try faking and putting this facade, if we're not in real congruency, we can't really get into a continual flow state. So as foo as it sounds, this concept of getting in tune and understanding really what the injuries were, not only personally, but also epigenetically that came into us,
Yeah.
is the ultimate key and wicked, stupid, smart thing. Chapter number 11, alignment of being a happy hustler.
Yeah, it really should. We should have you do an addendum to the
Mhm.
book on this topic. It's getting clarity on your true self and what's driving the ship, right? I mean, it's this 5-year-old, this teenager, this young adult, this adult. At any given moment, you're showing up in a different, in a different way.
And
I
just
gotta,
being aware of it is the
yeah,
main thing. It's not good or bad. The thing I used to always think is Richie's app everyone wants and cram down. That
yeah.
I mean, you don't want, my Johnny Passion is my lizard, and it's like I want him doing all his stuff, in a private, but a safe area. But it's like then giving that voice, it just moderates and brings the temperature down. And
Mm-hmm.
we've all got it. Everyone says, no, no, really, what I am is what, you know what? BS, just
Yeah.
BS. I've been around enough for you. A matter of fact, I'm your king. I've freaking done it. I've been there. I've manifested on levels that most people dream about. And, it's like it's this first, second mountain kind of stuff. It doesn't matter how many wins you have there. I mean, come on, really. If 51's not enough, 19 is that not enough? I couldn't fill that hole. But you know what? This fills the hole. I don't need to
Mm.
do a number 52 business now. Just don't need to, because I was able to go into the belly of the dragon and come out with its gizzards.
And that's so courageous of you. Really, I gotta say it again. Most of us live our whole lives hiding and not speaking the truth. And, I've even held back my truths in many regards and still have some demons that I know I need to
Yeah.
slay.
And I love you for it.
Yeah.
We all
Thank
got
you,
it,
brother.
buddy.
Thank you, brother. I mean,
Patience and kindness.
yeah.
And I did get pretty raw in there. It scared I don't scare easily. I just don't. But
Yeah.
last night I came to my home court with this content, the first lady governor of the state of Utah, with all my network and all the tight frames and the loose frames and everything. And there it is. And I wrote a post titled "Crossing the Rubicon in My Underwear." And that's what it felt like,
Yeah.
as to crossing the Rubicon. So it still scared me a little bit. But you know what? Once you get to the other side of it, the dragon's just not that scary, and you get internal peace. It's worth it.
Mm. Internal peace is really the ultimate freedom, isn't it? I mean, what more does one seek? I feel called to ask you about how your faith might have shifted throughout this
Yeah,
story. I mean, I know you're a man of God, a man of faith,
I
and
am.
I know that's a big part of your reality. But I'm curious, as you were uncovering these truths, how has your faith shifted from the beginning of even uncovering these truths to then writing the book to now sharing the truths out publicly?
No, so thank you for asking that question. And very tenderly, it's expanded my platform. I have always been deeply connected to God, divine source, call it what you will.
Yeah.
But I never thought I could get that level of direct, visceral knowing of the living in flow, where I ask a question and it comes.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Apologies for interrupting your programming, but I have to tell you, the best investment you can make in yourself is one in which helps you acquires skills. You've probably heard people talk about, oh, just invest in yourself and you'll be successful. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you have to invest in skills that will ultimately help you achieve your desired results. And I think one of the best skills one can possess, be it an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, is the sales sword. Really knowing how to sell, utilizing pressure-free persuasion, which will make you more money and more impact. Now, if you want to know how to sell more efficiently and effectively, I just launched a sales course called The Proven Roadmap Process to Selling Millions of Dollars and helping you to increase your conversions, guaranteed. And you can get access to this new sales course that The Happy Hustle is launching at thehappyhustle.com/sales. And if you act fast, you'll get it at the lowest price it'll ever be available, because we are launching it and we want to gain amazing testimonials and social proof to further share this knowledge. So if you act fast, you can get it at the lowest price it'll ever be. That's at thehappyhustle.com/sales. Now let's get back to this episode.
Yeah. And so the direct relationship, I'm a deep Christian, and that has dramatically increased. I think what you're getting at is I am LDS, or Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so how has that affected that? The reality is I love the fundamental tenets of my religion. I've actually remained and remain in the religion. However, I think it's much broader platform than that. Now, one of my friends recently introduced me of Rich as a Mormon mystic monk. And I think that kind of sums it up. You know, I'd already raised Buddhist children. My best business partners were Jewish. My best boss ever was a Hindu Brahmi. So already had a pretty broad platform, but now it's dramatically even wider, and the opening of the frames. What I've really come to, very honestly, Carrie, is I have no tolerance at this point in my life, whether it's my religion, your religion, or any institution that diminishes the capacity of a soul or uses guilt and shame as a primary motivator to hold and suppress.
Yeah.
And so that is the big, place I draw the line. And we've removed that dynamic from our family already in the legato framework and the trash can of values, if you recall. Mm-hmm. But now definitely this is a place that I'm taking, more and more stands when I see, that kind of inappropriate dominion occur. And it's been really interesting because friends from all over the world, oh my gosh, Rich, let me tell you, thank you for saying that. Let me tell you about my Baptist or my evangelical or my spiritual new age. And we've got to expand the framework. I got asked this question in my book signing last week in San Diego, and the woman kept kind of going after it. It's like, shouldn't we just destroy all religions? And my comment very boldly back was, that's the stupidest thing ever. There's one thing more dangerous than no frameworks, than frameworks, and that's no frameworks. Are you prepared to let your children and grandchildren just wander out in the wilderness and the scorpions and the rattlesnakes and just no path get bitten? But on the other hand, I think we do reach a point. Now, this is a long response, but I think appropriate. I've been reading a lot of Richard Rohr, and he talks, he was the mystic Jesuit priest. And he talks a lot about second phase of life and how the rules that work so well didn't work in second phase of life if you're turning into a true sage. And so my final comment on this topic will be to quote the Dalai Lama. Understand the rules very, very well so you can know how to properly break them.
I love that quote. That's awesome. And man, the Mormon Mystic Monk. That is such a great title.
And maybe we should flip it. Maybe it's Mystic Monk Mormon.
Either one. I like them both. I mean, I just feel like every time I talk to you, my mind is so expanded, and I just drink in your wisdom. And I hope everyone else feels similarly. That's why I highly recommend getting his book, Blindsided. Not to mention, you have other phenomenal books too that you've written: The Zigzag Principle, Bootstrap Business, Even If Your Toes Turn Purple. Like, you have so much content that you've documented from your journey. I'm wondering, and I feel like I know the answer, but of this kind of body of work when it comes to books, I know it's such a labor of love. Was this the most difficult project / book you've ever written and put together?
Not even a close second. You don't even want to know how much resource and money I put into this. I had to collate it down from thousands of pages. I hired a New York Times investigative reporter for an entire year. To put it into context, I rewrote Zigzag Principle. I think it was the number 5 or best-selling book in the category in 2012. And so I rewrote it in 4 days. This took me 5 years, and without question, the most complicated work I've ever done. The main thing I'm proud of in the book is most of these sensational, salacious books, and I won't list them because I don't want to offend the authors, that get a ton of attention, is they come in, they vomit all over the floor, and then they leave the room and leave everyone else to clean up their mess, sliding around on their disgustingness. And I didn't do that. I actually took the time to clean my own mess up and then very carefully and truthfully frame it.
Yeah.
My new mantra is speak the truth or say nothing at all.
Mm.
And most of the time I now say nothing at all. But when I speak the truth, I really, really mean it. And this is a book of truth.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And what a beautiful mantra there, man. Speak the truth or say nothing at all. That alone could be a life-changing mantra for somebody. And again, I feel like now in this AI era where technology can manufacture facades in every single area of life, the truth is more attractive than ever. And
Yeah, it is.
people crave it, and the authenticity reigns supreme. If you could speak to your 20-year-old self again and share a message from all of the wisdom that you've acquired, maybe it has to do with Blindsided or maybe something else, speak to that 20-year-old self and bestow some wisdom in regards to the truth and how imperative it is to speak it.
Well, I think it really does boil down to all the content I've done prior.
Yeah.
Is there are phases of life, and we shouldn't apologize for it. If you're out there hustling your business, and it's like, oh, Rich, this really doesn't relate to me. It's like you're an old man now. It's like, you know what? That's okay. That's right. Go read Zigzag Principle, and I'll teach you how to get on top of the first mountain. And I don't fault my young adult, because every son must kill his father. And in my own way, I kind of had to do that metaphorically so I could become my own man and prove it. But I
Right.
think that the other side of that is I mean, you can't argue. I've lived the most remarkable, amazing, full life of anyone I've ever met. I was already the luckiest guy on earth, but the internal toil, the rocket fuel that I was using to do all these cool things wasn't pure fuel. It had a lot of uh, guile in it. And so
Mm,
I think that the thing I would tell my 20-year-old is just you're enough, and you don't have to earn love. You don't have to prove yourself
mm,
and earn love. Just being who you are is sufficient.
mm,
And I think that's the main message I wish that I could have come to a little bit earlier. And the conclusion I've come to now, in all my broken, messy glory, it's just enough. There's not right and wrong, and most of it is just learning. And
mm,
so I really wouldn't change much about my life. Very, very few things would I change. But I think that I would have tried to, because most people didn't know it. Many people that know me, they're just shocked when they hear that I almost took my own life in my 40s. I disclose that. And they're just shocked when they hear kind of the internal turmoil. And I wish that I could go back maybe and just be a little kinder, a little more gentle, and a little less dramatic dialogue going on in my inner voice.
mm. Yeah. I know it's a tough topic, but I do think it's an important one. The topic of almost taking your own life and just suicide at large. I mean, you know, my my Navy SEAL friend William, he told me that 22 veterans take their own lives every single day.
There you go,
It's
brother.
insane. And I know mental health issues are running rampant in our country, not to mention our world, but specifically in America. I think obviously it has to do with our broken sick care system, aka, the pharmaceutical companies and our big food companies poisoning our source of nourishment and giving us essentially dead food that doesn't feed us life, and it has to play into our mental well-being. I don't want to go on a tangent on that stuff, but it's toxic. Many of our environments and our food sources and the prescriptions that we get told with by someone in a white coat to take,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
not to mention going down that rabbit hole with my own son, and seeing all the vaccinations and some of the stuff that people are pushing on our children. And no wonder we have this mental health crisis, and no wonder more, you know, SSRIs are prescribed, and depression is at an all-time high, and kids are taking their own lives or contemplating it. It's almost this sad reality that we've created for ourselves. And speaking from your own truth, from someone who has slayed that dragon of wanting to go down that path, speak to us about the thought of suicide, and how did you overcome it?
Well, no, that is a tricky one. I was in a very desperate situation at that point in my life. I snapped my Achilles not once but twice, was bedridden, horrific pain, and just my young family just wasn't making it. And I went into a dark place. And so, I'm not proud, but on the other hand, I wanted my grandchildren to know the value and quantity of life, after that. So I guess a couple of 3, 4 little things, comments I'd make here is, first of all, what pulled me out of that moment, because it was dark, desperate. I had just launched to be an entrepreneur, had 1 year of runway, and it was all chewed up. And there I sit in my couch, watching my wife trying to hold it together, and my father being incredibly critical of me, saying, "What, Richard? What, you can't work? What, really harsh." And so I went to a dark spot. What flipped me out of it was as my wife took me to a couch in our room and opened the blinds, and there out in the yard was one of my friends that was just pulling a few weeds. And I just sat there and wept as I realized that someone was aware of me. And so, number one is awareness. It's back to that topic of deeply, deeply needing to touch the human soul. And the second, you mentioned like the health, and I really agree that's true. But I think also these are making us more sick than the food.
Yeah, it's true.
Is the rewiring of our brains through our phones, and even myself, I find myself touching the phone all the time. And I
Right.
think we've got to quote this interesting book that I've been reading, The Happy Hustle. There's something in there about airplane mode and disconnecting. So it's vitally important for our welfare and our psychology that we actually unplug from that a little bit. And then the third goes along with that is building our communities. That's why family, nothing more important in the world than our families. As I came out with this Blindsided, the first thing that as a matter of fact, I'll tell the story of how that happened, because I hit a point where trust bone was broken. I discovered all these things in Blindsided, and just totally there. So I had all of my sons. I asked my wife, how do I know my children are mine? And she says, "Oh, they're yours, baby," and winked at me and says, "Let's take a test." So she very courageously and just kindly, we took a test, and one by one, my sons all opened the letter that Nathan Vaughn is the son of Richard. John Richard is the son of Matthew. Brett is. Timothy Tyrus is. Alexander Hans is. And between each son, they would cheer and laugh and clap and hug me, and then they bask me in love. And the reality is when we have abundance of love and purpose, then that oftentimes solves it. And I'm going to mention one other thing that may be a little bit of a controversy, because we do live in a world of a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression that's just rampant. And I think at some point, having some exposure to some challenging things, I jokingly had told some friends, everyone needs to go to Vietnam and walk across these crazy business streets as cars are,
Yeah,
passing. And
I've
in
been
that
there.
country, yeah, you just walk and it's the car's responsibility.
Yeah.
That alone would, I think, give us a little confidence. We can't keep narrowing the temperature, narrowing it so we can only live at 71.5 degrees.
Right.
We've got to get comfortable with a little bit more discomfort and give
Mm,
our children and our grandchildren the opportunity to face a few hard things and quit making it so damn easy for them all the time.
yeah. Mm,
Give them a few near-death experiences without the death. And that's quite frankly my rite of passage, where we climb a large mountain with my sons at 14. That's the purpose of it, is private victories, and I can do hard things.
mm.
So those are my thoughts on the mental health. And I'm definitely not like a expert at it, but I have lived enough to know that you just have to face your fears with reality. You can't run and hide from stuff anymore.
Yeah. Well said. I mean, you talked about awareness, like the first step in progress in any capacity is admitting that there is a problem, right? And then you're talking about unplugging digitally, one of our 10 alignments, and that's one of the 10 alignments for a damn reason, because we're
Yeah.
so inundated. And then you talked about building community. I think now more than ever, there's so many keyboard warriors and online forums, and everyone just feels like they know people, quote unquote, through this digital portal, but it's not real connection. You have to get outside the screen and frankly outside to really, feel fully human and connect with those, that you might love and care about. And again, having love and purpose, I mean, that's what we all crave, right? And significance, I guess, the 6 core human needs is, I know significance is in there. However, with all that, I mean, the most important topic that I think you just touched on is we're soft. We're soft as a society right now. We're breeding soft children. We're not being exposed to hard things enough. We're living, in these very interesting times. I'll leave it at that. Where
Well,
this woke culture.
here's the thing: is we've never lived at a greater time, never had
Right.
more opportunity. Who's going to go
Right.
back and live on and sit on my father's toilet without toilet paper? So we live in this incredible opportunity time, but oftentimes we frame it, and our psychology gets, never been at a worse history point in time, and it's garbage. I think we need to just recognize there's so much opportunity, and we've just got to shut a lot of that. Again, boils down to the media and the manipulation of the media.
Yeah.
It's like still the United States, even through this COVID, was a terrible situation.
Right.
Wind that back 100 years and go through the last pandemic.
Right.
It was far more lived. You want to live through the Black Plague? Really? World War II? I mean, seriously, look at the death and just horrific situation. So, in so many regards, we've just got so much good. But on the other hand, I don't think that a little bit of challenge would hurt. I mean, I get a little concerned of the teenagers and the young adults that have never seen a little bit of a recession, depression, and they think, hey, just because I poop, I am, and I deserve, and at some point that is going to, I think, be a challenge. And so I'm a huge advocate and believer in the younger generation. In so many ways, they got so much more right than my generation. Many of the problems my generation caused, they're facing and doing a remarkable job. But I think there are these few areas, namely, technology and the rewiring of the brain, and just having the chutzpah to just, kind of spit in the eye of danger a little bit more, that we're losing some of that art.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. And specifically with relationships, I think we're losing the chutzpah, the grit, right? Like the divorce is at an all-time
Yeah.
high, 52% plus, right? And
Well,
I
and
know
many aren't even marrying. And that's, oh my gosh, miss on the most joyful thing in the world. Don't do
right.
that, guys.
Yeah, right.
It's messy, and do it.
Yeah. So I want to speak to this because you have, I mean, how long have you been married now?
Oh, 37 years.
37 years. And that in and of itself, I know is one of your proudest accomplishments. I can
Well,
probably go out on a
it's
limb.
my wife's proudest accomplishment. For me, it's just been joy. Can you imagine being married to me? Oh, every time she gets angry at me, I say, "Oh, sweetheart, life would be so boring if you'd married these other guys." And then she laughs and pokes me and says, "Okay, honey, let's go."
I mean, there's something to be said about having relationship grit. And, I want to just kind of extract some wisdom here since we're talking about it. Like you have 5 amazing sons. You put them through the Legato family principles. I remember you said at the age of 16, they all had to sign contracts that they wouldn't take another penny from you. At the age of 18, most of them, I think 4 out of 5 started a $1 million company,
Oh,
and then,
16. All one did it twice. So they all, yeah, they're their own men.
yeah,
They're my peers now.
right,
Every son must kill his father.
right.
And my sons have killed me so they can love and stand and support and stand with me. And I
Mm,
don't need to stand on my sons' backs. They stand with me now.
right.
13 grandchildren, by the way.
13
Wow.
grandchildren. I hope they're all going through Legato as well with your kids, as their mentors. Nonetheless, for people out there who are maybe in a relationship and going through adversity, or maybe they are like reluctant to even get into in a relationship because of the potential adversity and these high divorce rates, and seemingly the 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 deck seems stacked against relationships these days. And I know it is one of the most beautiful joys of our life is sharing it with others. Speak to that point and how you've been able to navigate those tumultuous waters.
Well, I think there's always risk in life, but I mean, the first thing is just making sure your value aligned, and I think that's the platform of legato content. So I think that there are frameworks that can really help stabilize, and I would point you to the legato family framework.
Yeah.
So if you get congruent on your relationship, particularly if you're not in a relationship, I tell my sons that there's 5 key pillars of successful relationships. Number one is, are you emotionally compatible? In other words, do you laugh together? Do you cry together? And make sure that there's emotional connection and compatibility. Number two is intellectual compatibility. That's why all the supermodels get cheated on. Is as dumb as a box of rocks is pretty unattractive after 5 minutes, And so making sure that I'm not saying you have to like both have PhDs, but if one person's a truck driver and the other is, that's going to be some challenging dynamics.
Yeah.
And so make sure that you're both intellectually poking and stimulating and having things in common on the same intellectual plane. Let's see, the third and number one reason for divorce is financially compatible. If one's a spender, one's a saver, for crying out loud, that could be challenging. So make sure that you understand and show each other. Most couples are showing each other their body parts. You better be showing each other your financial parts and how that's going to work out also. So that's a critical one. And then the fourth is spiritual compatibility. Is as exciting as it is, I'm New Age Christian, I'm atheist. That seems like real exciting. But what do you do when little Johnny comes along?
Yeah.
Do you teach them about the universe and science, or do you baptize them God, Father, and Holy Ghost?
Yeah.
And so I think spiritual compatibility is a really key at play now that I see. And again, we've kind of covered the concept that I think that we do need a framework, or else we have to go build all our own roads. So
Right.
spiritual compatibility. And then the last one everyone loves, and it's what everyone races to. They go Tinder and they get sexually compatible. They get all hot for each other, but they miss the other 4. And I would encourage you, slow that one down. I know that sounds old fashioned, but slow the sexual compatibility down. Make sure those other 4, then upon those 5 pillars are all, solid, stable relationships. And it does take work. It takes work, but oh my gosh, the joy and the meaning and the impact and all the messiness is worth it. I mean, I see my little, we had like 9 of our grandchildren down to the cabin last week, total mayhem. And my wife just sat there and just laughed and reveled in these little souls that are permanently tied and drawn to us. So you guys, it's worth it. Don't forego the challenge and messy. Anything in life worth having is hard.
Yeah.
If you want to be in the crowd, just go do what everyone else is doing. Do the easy thing. If you want to distinguish yourself and have real texture and richness and meaning, go climb a big mountain. Go have a deep, meaningful relationship. Write a crazy book like the one I did. That's scary as hell, but it's meaningful, And so don't be afraid to venture big. Do it now, do it with a purpose, and makes no small plan, for it hath not the magic to stir the soul of man. And I think one of the biggest plans that we can make now is family. And that was David Omake, by the way. End of lecture 5,439.
Hey, I'll keep them coming. I'll take all the lectures, Rich. This is so powerful, man. And I want to bring it back to Blindsided because it's so riveting, and I want people to experience it. And I know how sometimes with podcasts, people take action and they get the book, and then there's other people who maybe want to but don't. But I do want to give people the takeaway that you were desiring when you wrote the book. If we had to leave the Happy Hustlers with the biggest, greatest, grandiose lesson from Blindsided that you want to bestow on anyone who reads it or comes in contact with it, what would that takeaway be?
Well, it's the quote that actually gave me strength from Parker Palmer is having the courage to face our fears,
Hmm.
fierce with reality, and then bracing our brokenness as an integral part of who we are and our healing.
Hmm.
And indeed that's what I did, and this book won't disappoint. It's a very well written, but it also is maybe the most neck jarring, bracing, can't believe that actually happened book that I've ever read or written, even though I wrote it. So that would be my takeaways.
Yeah, I love that. And you do have the audiobook as well. And again,
Absolutely.
where's the best part or best place for people to go to get the book?
It's really available anywhere. I mean, you can order it pretty much anywhere. It's obviously on Audible or Amazon, but if you want to get more from me or particularly get that soul expression map exercise that we talked about, you can just go to richchristensen.com and there's links to everything there. So you're going to have a hard time not finding the book once you get looking for it. It's a purple cover with a big, beautiful 3 DNA tree, Blindsided, a journey of identity, faith, and healing.
Blindsided. Get it at richchristensen.com or anywhere you want to get books. We have it all linked up in the show notes as well. Rich, I have to put you through the rapid fire round as per Happy Hustle protocol, and I always love to hear your answers. Maybe they've shifted since our last chat, but I'm just going to kind of rapid fire some questions your way, and you answer honestly first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. Happy Hustle hack for your health. Go.
Breath work.
Happy Hustle hack for your money.
Abundant and share.
Happy Hustle hack for your spirituality.
Find your direct connection to God and non-apologetically pursue it.
Best business advice.
Cash flow. Watch your cash flow. No. I'm going to take that back. Channel. Make sure you get the channel locked down first. Lock the channel down. Don't build the product. Sell it, then build it. Don't build it, then sell it.
Right there. Sage words. Your spirit animal, what is it?
A mountain gorilla that's turning into a wise old hoot zap, old owl.
I love it. 3 things you're most grateful for today.
Oh, my beautiful wife that loved and supported me through this, my dear friends and network that have been so supportive and kind of me, and my health, the opportunity to just breathe and experience this beautiful earth.
Love it. And if you had a billboard for the world to see with your last piece of content on there, what does that billboard read?
I would not give a fig for simplicity. I would give my life for simplicity on the other side of complexity.
Mic drop, man. Oh, wow. Was that good? And Rich, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you so much for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom. I say this all honestly, you have blessed my life more than you know. I mean, you've been a mentor, a friend, a supporter of the Happy Hustle in so many regards. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for you. Like specifically with Legato, you shifted so many families' lives, including my own, as well as with the zigzag principle, now with Blindsided. Like you really have blessed my life. And I just want you to know that, as well as the Happy Hustler. So thank you, man. I freaking
Thank you, Carrie. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a joy to be with you and your group. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And I want to urge everyone, richchristensen.com, pick up a copy of Blindsided. Final question, Rich. I want to know if it changed. What does happy hustling mean to you?
Well, I think it's probably the same as last time, is living in flow, a completely manifest life, personal, balance, family, and where I spend my time, money, and resources. So happy hustling to me is all inclusive of flow.
Mic drop, y'all. Rich Christensen, thank you for watching and listening. We are out. Peace and love, everybody.